So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Chuck Alsop with INSA. I'm not going to speak a lot here before I turn it over to somebody else. I just want to say INSA does a lot of things during the year, but I think this event is by far and away the most fun and the most satisfying of any of the events we do, and I think you'll see why in a minute. But Tish is going to talk a little bit more about some of the reasons we're here in just a second. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of INSA, former director of NGA, Tish Long.
Thank you, Chuck, for that very brief introduction, as we agreed. Okay, let's see. Keynote address, Lieutenant General Vince Stewart. I'm not going to give those remarks. Okay, somewhere in here are my remarks. Here we go. This is a great event, and that was a great way to open this, Chuck. And I also noticed that we're not going to go driving with this podium tonight. I'm gonna keep it straight. What was that? I missed whatever the other remark was. There are seats down front for those of you who are standing up there. Come on down. Come on, we've got seats. You know, you don't want to stand through this 4.5-hour program. Truly, you don't. So, a warm welcome and good evening to everyone for the 2017 INSA Achievement Awards. And tonight, INSA recognizes 6 outstanding individuals, 1 through 6, from academia, industry, government, and the military who are helping our nation achieve its intelligence and national security missions. They exemplified leadership, professionalism, mentorship, and commitment to excellence. We look forward to sharing their stories with you and letting you hear from these leaders and mentors who so often work behind the scenes. And speaking of behind the scenes, I offer a very special welcome to the family members of our recipients who are here with us tonight, family and dear friends. I know there are proud parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, spouses, and one very proud daughter in attendance. And it is because of you, your constant love and support, your patience and encouragement, that the recipients have been able to pursue their careers with such passion and dedication as they work long hours and sometimes travel far away from home. So I am so pleased, and INSA is so pleased that you could join us for this celebration this evening. INSA is also very pleased to host the Achievement Awards ceremony at the U.S. Institute of Peace. We want this evening to be first class in every respect, and I don't think we could hope for a more gorgeous venue. I would also like to thank the sponsors whose contributions have made tonight's ceremony possible. PwC, who I just said hello to, Northrop Grumman, Microsoft, Penn State Applied Research Lab, Deloitte, Vencor, and our co-check sponsor, Tony Spadero of Spadera and Associates. Now, Tony, I want you to know, I checked my sweater. If anyone has a jacket or light sweater, sunglasses. If anything you'd like to check, I know Tony would appreciate it. But Tony, I did, see, number one, I did check. Thank you for your unending support. And everyone, please join me in thanking all of our sponsors. I would also like to thank our keynote speaker, Lieutenant General Vince Stewart, Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. So I already shared this with Vince. He was here last year to present an award, and his enthusiasm is what made us No, I'm absolutely serious. That's what made us immediately say, we know who's going to be the keynote speaker next year. So that's why you're here, sir. So you don't want to go driving this off the stage, okay, with your enthusiasm. But seriously, for an agency director to demonstrate such a personal commitment to recognizing the workforce, I certainly appreciate the example that you set, not only the support of your workforce, but also the support of INSA in these achievement awards. So thank you for being here, and we look forward to your keynote. And that's why I didn't want to give your keynote. So everyone has a program. Hopefully you got that on the way in. And as you can see, tonight's 6 achievement awardees are each named after a recipient of the William Oliver Baker Award. And we are fortunate to have 2 of our award namesakes with us tonight, both of whom served as the Deputy Director of Central Intelligence, Dick Kerr and Admiral Bill Studeman. Thank you both for being here this evening. We really are just so pleased that you are here and also delighted in your participation in this evening's program. In the company of these 2 Baker Award recipients, and actually we also have Charlie Allen, another Baker Award recipient, I thought it would be fitting to give this audience a preview, an exclusive about the next Baker honoree. I'm very pleased to tell you that next week, INSA will make a formal announcement and announce former FBI Director Robert Mueller as the 2017 recipient of the William Oliver Baker Award. We look forward to honoring Director Mueller on June 9th, mark your calendars, at the annual William Oliver Baker Award dinner, and there will be much more on that to come, of course, but you heard it here first. Now, the Achievement Awards are supported by INSA's Intelligence Champions Council, which is co-chaired by Jill Bruning, and I know I saw Jill right up there, right in the center, and Matt Scott. And Matt is going to be on stage soon. So Jill and Matt, thank you so much for your leadership and your service to INSA with leading the Intelligence Champions Council. And at this time, I would like to welcome Matt, representing the ICC and one of tonight's sponsors, PwC, for a few remarks and to introduce our keynote speaker, General Stewart. So Matt, please. I need my coach.
Thank you, Tish. Good evening, everyone. The Champions Council, which I am really privileged to co-chair, we're now in our 3rd year of stewardship of these achievement awards. Our purpose in doing this and everything that we do is really to enhance the ability of the intelligence community, the national security community, to accomplish its missions. But we do this by mentoring, by advising, by advocating for individuals who are either engaged now or interested in being engaged in really the service of intelligence. I think many of you, whoa, there goes the podium. Now I know how, all right. Tish wasn't kidding, I'm just step back. I think many of you would agree the nation faces a tremendously complex security environment right now. And to win in that environment, we have to have, the people in this room have to have the best possible workforce working on intelligence problems. And that's our mission, really. We want to recruit and maintain the best possible people to work for our organizations, no matter what their background is. I'd like to recognize the council members who are in the audience with us. They work all year to make events like this possible, to make our speed mentoring events. April 25th, there's a little plug possible. We're doing a happy hour on March 1st for young professionals. They work all year, and they don't get much recognition. So if you're a council member and you're in the audience, would you just raise your hand and let us clap for you just very quickly? Thanks, Mary. Thanks. I'd also like to recognize the people in the room who take time out of their schedules to mentor. Mentoring is incredibly important in our community. And it can be across generations, it can be across organizational boundaries, it can be across skill sets. It's all important, and you all deserve credit. So, yeah, why not? People who are mentoring right now, would you raise your hands as well? I think you deserve a round of applause as well, and so I'll give it to you. And there are also people in our community who don't yet have mentors, and they will, at some point in their careers, if they're not already, fill positions of just critical responsibility. It's so important that we get them prepared for those positions. So as you're listening to these 6 amazing stories tonight, would you please just take a moment to yourself and think about whether you have the capacity, the willingness to go out and add another mentor sort of to your repertoire, or maybe to serve as a mentor is the first time. So please keep that ask in mind. Now, Lieutenant General Stewart. By way of an intro, I'm just going to give you 3 things that popped out about Lieutenant General Stewart's hall file that I found really, really interesting. 1, don't worry, it's good. Lieutenant General Stewart, this is an intelligence leader who has never lost contact with the most junior members of his staff or the people on his staff and on his teams that truly have boots on the ground. And so I asked some of his current and former colleagues, what in his long resume, what of his assignments would he might want to hear about tonight? And one of the interesting recommendations was his time as commanding officer of the Headquarters Battalion, 2nd Infantry Division. He was deployed to Iraq. What's remarkable about this is not that he was deployed to Iraq, but while commanding a headquarters element, he was able to spend and develop a reputation for spending a lot of his time outside of the FOB and actually on the ground with his Marines, which is really remarkable and I think not normal. 2, this is a man who, 2, this is a man who selects and promotes and grades and rewards his staff based on merit. This man has no patience for favoritism. So just a quick vignette, when he convened a panel to select his deputy as Director of Intelligence Marine Corps, he provided no input to that panel. He sat quietly in it and did not say a word, did not ask questions of any of the panel members. He let his panel members ask the questions of the interviewees, and then he listened to them debate, and he still did not provide any input until they gave him his recommendation, gave him their recommendation. And then he went with the recommendation. And he did that because he wanted the best possible person serving as deputy, not the person necessarily that he knew or thought would be the best. And it turned out that he didn't know all of them, which he told the panelists later, but he went with the recommendation. And 3, this is a leader who himself has benefited from strong leadership and mentorship in his career. And he is now paying it forward. And I think, fun fact, he chose to have his promotion ceremony to Brigadier General at the Women in Military History Museum to honor his mother, who was, in her own right, a strong leader and a mentor to him. I think that's tremendous. And he's paying it forward now, and that came through so clearly as we sat in the selection panel for the awards for tonight. The DIA candidates they really stood out. And we were looking across all these different organizations, public and private sector, and it's clear something's going on there that is good. So that is why I wanted him here tonight, because he is clearly someone who walks the walk. This is a practitioner of the leadership and mentorship traits that we're trying to promulgate here in events like this, and he's someone who's making a difference in our community now. So thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, the Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, Lieutenant General Vince Stewart.
I'm not sure where you came up with any of that stuff. None of it's true. I do have a great publicist, so maybe you don't have publicist. This does. Sorry. I know I'm supposed to be much more reverent, but I can't help myself. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for being here. I am delighted to be here. I don't know if I'm going to be enthusiastic, inspiring, or I'm going to try to do what my staff has done, try to read the great stuff that my teams put together, and maybe some of it will inspire and some of it will motivate. But I'm excited to be here. And I want to take just a minute and thank Tish and her team for putting this event and the many great INSA events on. This is what this is all about for those of us who are now on the other side of our career, to reach forward and take care of some of the young leaders who are coming up. And so if we could all just thank Tish and Chuck and the team. So last year, Jim Clapper was here. And you all know Jim Clapper's got a big career and big. So I'm feeling just a little bit nervous about trying to walk in the shadows of a Jim Clapper. We exchanged some emails a couple of days ago, maybe last week, and Jim said he was glad to be retired. He said he'd lost 10 pounds because he no longer has the stress. He's working out regularly, he's eating well, and he doesn't miss this at all. So I'm looking forward to following him next year into retirement. So it really is an honor to speak before you and recognize our 6 intelligence professionals from their extraordinary achievements, one of whom is from DIA. I don't know how to feel about that because I really wanted all 6 to be from DIA. But Janice Scott Tarman is ours from DIA, and she's receiving the Joan A. Dempsey Mentorship Award for fostering an environment of teamwork and mentorship in our counterintelligence analysis division. She's helping young analysts grow and thrive. Among her achievements is establishing a counterintelligence analysis awards program recognizing contributions from partners across the intelligence and the DoD communities. This is the type of impact our awardees are having, shaping the next generation of intelligence professional. And I'm very grateful, both as an American and an agency director, to have such exemplary officers providing first line of defense for our nation. Our 6 awardees have all demonstrated impressive talents and skill in their fields, but they have 2 qualities that they all possess, and all of us can look to emulate. They have great leadership skills, and they're committed to service. Tonight's recipients are just doing excellent work. They're lifting up those around them, they're setting the example, and they may not realize it yet, but they are today's influencers and mentors, and the ones who will shape the world, who will teach and lead our sons, our daughters, our grandchildren, and for some of us more mature ones, our great-grandchildren. And each of us in the defense intelligence community possess the same ability to help those around us at every level and at every grade. Our work ethic and behavior today directly shapes the next generation of defense intelligence professionals. We set the standards for those who follow. A few weeks ago, or a few months, I guess last month, DIA held a mentoring session, and the guest speaker, and I think I saw her earlier, was ODNI's Dr. Stacy Dixon, the Deputy Director of IARPA, the Intelligence Advanced Research Projects Activity. And she said that, I quote, "Behind every successful individual is someone who mentored them." And I want you all to know that we should all strive to lift up someone around us, to teach the next generation, to teach our peers and our contemporaries, and help us all become better officers, because this, in turn, helps the nation and furthers our mission. I think my team slipped this one in. I'm going to use it, so I'm going to beat the heck out of them later. You know, there's not a whole lot of people left in the IC older than me, they write. I mean, come on, I'll find you. But that's true. And I find myself increasingly learning from my younger officers. I find that some of our best leaders are mid-level or junior employees. And that's really encouraging, and it should be encouraging to all of you. because it means we have a very bright future. I encourage our seniors to listen to them, too. Mentorship is a two-way thing, it goes both ways. And it really is all about lifelong learning. And that's exactly what we need, because when I look around the world today, I'm increasingly seeing the fault lines that causes great concern about stability in the international order. Think about this. The international order that we grew up in, that we grew up with since the end of the Second World War, is being challenged by states and proto-states around the world. Russia seeks to have a different international order. China seeks a different international order. Daesh, ISIS, Al-Qaeda seeks a different international order. Iran threatens the international order. And we built this order around alliances that fostered peace and stability and economic development. And all of those things are under pressure today. And that's why we need this younger, vibrant generation, not because we don't know, and I know I'm going to get beat up by the more mature group, but we are stuck, unfortunately, in the ideas of the past. I know our expertise is valuable, and what we've learned over the years is important to share with the next generation, but some of us are fighting the last war. And I need this young generation, these young men and women here, to look at the world differently, to challenge conventional wisdom, to push the boundaries, and to make us think about this next 50 years, maybe in a little bit different way than we've thought about the past 50 years. And so I ask them not only to push, but I ask us to be willing and open to listening to their ideas. Think about this. When I was a young man, it's been a while. When I was a young man, we did intelligence analysis based on 50, 100 documents that came in that gave us insights about what was going on in the world. Today, think about the volume and the velocity of data that's coming at our analysts, who have to sift through all of that data and make sense of it. And we used to talk about finding the needle in the haystack. It's not even, if it were finding a needle in the haystack, it would be simple. It is finding the precise needle in a stack of needles. And we are seeing terabytes and petabytes and I don't know what other bytes of data that's coming screaming at our analysts. So the question is, does the model that we use to make analytic judgments when we got 50, 100, 200 documents, does it still make sense? Does that model work for the future? How will our analysts deal with all of that that's coming at them in such an intense way? And the expectation is the model that we still will read everything, will synthesize it, will make some judgments. And I don't know if that works in this world going forward. There are a group of people in this world today. I see a single lens reflex camera there. There are people in this world who have no idea that you can take pictures with that thing. Because the only thing they have ever experienced is taking a picture from a smartphone. And they're generating incredible amount of data using those devices. So I get it. Us older generation, we got to share the knowledge, we got to share the wisdom, we got to share the history, we got to provide the context. But boy, I need you all to help these young men and women think differently, act differently, pursue different ideas, challenge conventional wisdom, and create an environment that they can ingest, digest, and deliver content that is valuable for our policymakers. The tempo, the speed at which we need to make decisions does not match the model that we were so successful with in the past. I know that wasn't in your remarks, and I don't care, but I did read the part about me being old, so. So it's fitting that we're here at the United States Institute of Peace talking about the practitioner of defense and the intelligence and keeping the peace, because that's what we're all about. Our work prevents wars, saves lives, and ensures a peaceful society and that peaceful society can continue in the face of today's threats and challenges. You, all of you in this room, have chosen this life, that of the silent professional, committed to speak truth to power no matter the cost. And it's not easy. Sometimes the price is high in terms of our professional lives, and often in our personal ones. And we aren't going to get rich from doing this, and seldom will we get the public accolades for our work. But our role is crucial to the safety of the United States and the ideals it embodies: freedom, equality, diversity, and of course those inalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Every day our work helps us reach closer to that perfect union. Today, in this uncertain world, we need strong leaders. That's why we need more people like these young individuals being recognized tonight. And that's why each of us need to recognize the impact that we have on those around us and continue to lift up this community and the important work that we do on behalf of this nation. To our recipients being honored here tonight, I want to offer a couple leadership thoughts that you might find useful throughout your careers. And you know, if some of you all want to use some of these, you can too. This is free. One of the most important things I'll offer to you as a leader, as a future leader, is a very simple thought. Listen. I think the person, and I have to be careful now because if I say God created us, someone will get, but whoever made us gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I've often believed he did that so we can listen twice as much as we speak. Some people get that backwards. Spend some time, listen. Listen to those around you, take it all in before you jump to conclusion. Hear out the workforce, hear out your partners, hear out those around you, and spend that quality time thinking about what you've heard. And after you've listened and you've made your assessment, then you can start thinking about what's your vision for the future. And you may not get it quite right. You may just have the outlines of your vision for your organization, but have a vision. And make absolutely certain that within your organization there is but one vision. I've seen more organizations being destroyed by multiple visions within the organization. But listen, create a vision. There's a proverb, without the vision, the people perish. Create your vision and then see it through to completion. And then the third thing I'd ask you to do is think about how you build your team. Surround yourself with great people and empower them. Push them. Set aside your ego for just a minute and pretend that you're not the smartest person in the room. Surround yourself with smart people who will challenge your ideas. Challenge them privately, obviously, and push you so that you can push the organization to the next level. Your team must be confident, energetic, and you must be willing to listen to them also, use their feedback to develop your organization. And as you build that team, the absolute key currency to that team is building an environment of trust. So they're comfortable to talk about what matters to the organization and how they can help you. And then as you sort out your vision and you put your team together, know that there will be obstacles and what I affectionately call insurgents within your organization. And you must be prepared to execute your plan or execute your insurgents, your choice. I stole that from John McKay when he was Tampa Bay Buccaneers coach. They were 0-16, and a reporter said, "How'd you feel about your team's execution?" He said, "I'm all for it." I always thought that was a wonderful. So understand which pieces of your plan will cause tension, will cause struggles, will cause obstacles. Be vigilant in fighting through those problems, and be ruthless against those insurgents. And lastly, and I've relearned this in the last 2 years, you cannot over-communicate with your workforce. Simon Sinek talks about start with why. Make sure they understand why you're doing it. Make sure they understand your intent. and continue to communicate. We've tried very hard over the last 2 years to never make a move without having a strategic communication plan that walks our workforce through. And it's remarkable when they don't have time to try to figure out what you're doing because you've told them and you've stayed true to your vision. And most importantly, never forget that this is all about people. We're in the people business. Take care of your people, take care of your workforce. That should not be an afterthought. And remarkably, it is for so many organizations and so many leaders who say it's about the people, and they never interact with the people. They never really touch the core desires of their workforce. Foster that culture of innovation at every level throughout your organization. Don't ever forget that mistakes will be made. You're going to make mistakes. Bill Seeley, when he was a lieutenant, had a fitness report that says, this lieutenant never makes the same mistake twice, but he makes every mistake in the book. No, that's not what they said about Bill. But it's okay to make mistakes, and sometimes we forget that you learn an awful lot when you make mistakes. Failure is a really key ingredient to innovation and innovative ideas. And so don't punish the folks who, now, if they make all the mistakes in the book, crush them. I mean, okay. That's Marine ease for hug them gently and see if they'll be better next time. Give your folks the ability to try things, to push the envelope, knowing that they will make mistakes. And sometimes when they make mistakes, you just got to reach out and give them a big old hug and say, it's going to be okay. Try again tomorrow. And then the last thing, wherever you find yourself serving, in whatever organization you lead, particularly if you're in public service, for all us public servants, you know this. Those of you who will follow in the public service. Remember, when you raise your right hand and you swear that oath, that really genuinely means something. That we swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States. We never swear an oath to an individual, to a political party, we swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States. Many of our friends really don't understand the power of that oath. Even some of the folks who recited that oath over and over throughout their careers really never understand the power of the oath. To defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. To bear true faith and allegiance to the same. In theory, because we took the obligation without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And we've committed to well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which we're about to enter. And sometimes in the noise of Washington, we forget that oath. Let me close this way. We are faced with two Kodak moments in the intelligence community today. Everybody knows the story of Kodak developing digital photography, didn't want to eat into their profits from wet film photography and kind of let others develop digital, and Kodak doesn't exist anymore. The two, I'll talk about one briefly. One is our failure to embrace this digital environment. And if we don't get our heads wrapped around that, we've got some problems. But the other one that really worries me more than anything else is the idea that you hear sometimes in the media, and the reason why I talked about the oath, the idea that you hear in the media that somehow the intelligence community, if annoyed by our president, will do everything we can to undermine our elected president of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, if anyone, our American citizens, they even begin to believe that is true, we're done. We have to fight that idea that our intelligence community will turn against our elected officials. And that's why every time I go out, I talk about the oath that we take. We take the oath to support the Constitution. And the idea that pundits will get on television and talk about the intelligence community turning against our elected officials is a dangerous, dangerous idea. And we all, every one of us, must rile against that whenever we hear that, because we turn against the enemies of our country, never against our elected officials. And I want to make sure, as you young men and women begin to look at this career, that you think about the fact that when you raise your right hand, our job at that point is to make our nation successful, make our president successful, and we will never undermine the institutions of this great country. Be proud of who you are and what you've accomplished. Always remember, on the good days and the bad days, both in generous and unforgiving jobs, what you do matters. This great experiment of our country matters. The ideals you serve matter. Simply put, your oath matters. Give it your best, and let the rest sort itself out. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
General Stewart, thank you so much. Your remarks on leadership, of course, very appropriate for this evening. Your remarks and the reminder that we take our oath to the Constitution of the United States, and that if anyone begins ever to think that it is anything other than that, we're in trouble. So very appropriate for this time for you to make those remarks. So thank you very much for doing that. Now, on to our awards. You will find an extensive citation on each of our 6 recipients in your program, and I encourage you all to read through them thoroughly. In the interest of time, this is not a 4.5-hour program. In the interest of time, we will touch briefly on the highlights and give our recipients time to make their remarks. The first award I have the honor of presenting tonight is the Sidney D. Drell Academic Award. And I do so with just a bit of sadness, as Dr. Drell recently passed away at the age of 90. Dr. Drell attended the 1st and 4th Achievement Awards, and even when he could no longer attend this ceremony, he was very eager to contact the recipients and learn all about their research. He was as generous in spirit as he was brilliant in mind, and he, as much as anyone, demonstrated the importance of understanding and applying science to address national security challenges. And I think Dr. Drell would be very proud of Sarah Jamshidi, a graduate research assistant at the Applied Research Lab at Penn State University. Sarah has contributed to the research and development team for ARL's Autonomy, Perception, and Cognition Department, helping pursue a revolutionary approach of cognitively advanced autonomous systems. Her work is fundamental to the team's effort to enable systems capable of reasoning and making decisions in real-world applications. In other words, we are all going to need Sarah's help when the robots start to turn on us. Sarah has demonstrated superb leadership abilities, bringing together diverse teams of mathematicians, cognitive psychologists, computer scientists, and engineers of various disciplines to address hard research questions. I am proud to present the 2017 Sidney Drell Academic Award to Sarah Jamshidi. We won't make you hold it.
Thank you. So, okay, wow, it's a big group here. It's a humbling experience just to be here among so many talented and wonderful people, it's a little surreal to actually be receiving an award in this room as well. But of course, this award is just the culmination of a lot of work from a lot of people. It's never just one person, right, despite what we say. So first and foremost, I have a long list of people I want to thank. First and foremost, I want to thank my fiance, Alexei Zellenberg, who I believe is threatening to circulate a video of this speech if I bomb. I don't know where he is, though. There we go. Okay. I love you, too. I'd also like to thank INSA, which fosters important collaborations in the intelligence community, and on behalf of every American, I want to say thank you for your fine work. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize Dr. Sidney Drell, who unfortunately passed away this December, but I suspect his legacy will continue to inspire scientists for many years to come. He spent half a century advocating for the public good through a bipartisan scientific lens, and his accomplishments are way too numerous to list, but they are a paragon for what constitutes a citizen scientist. As a researcher who's acutely aware that her entire public education was from the public, I personally feel a strong drive to give back, and I'm deeply inspired by Dr. Drell's legacy. I'd also like to thank the Air Force Research Lab, Penn State University, and of course the Applied Research Lab. In particular, I'd like to thank three people: Dr. Bradley Weibel, my advisor, Dr. Jason Morton, and perhaps most importantly, John Sustersick, John Sustersick. John, where are you? Can you wave? Okay, everybody. So if there's anybody who wants to write a nice big check for research, that's where John is sitting. I ended up working at John's lab because I saw what can only be described as the weirdest job description I've ever seen. It was asking for a graduate student who was either in computer science, computer engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, structural engineering, biophysics, physics, mathematics, psychology, neuroscience, cognitive science, or a related field. And I thought, well, I'm in math, so that's one of them. And John runs a lab with one primary goal, and it's to solve the general problem of autonomy. So we want to make algorithms that can operate on their own in a way that's useful to humans. That's much like what we do. So as a grad student, I've had the good fortune of working in one of the coolest labs I could ever imagine. And so with the remaining time I have, I wanted to share with you what my results are. And I know that half the audience is now thinking, oh my God, please don't give us a math lecture. So without the math, this is what it is. If you want to get smarter, you have to explore new things and think about them. Now there's like this moment where everyone's like, that's it? That's all it is? And I promise you the math is a lot more involved. But basically, that's the gist of it. And in fact, from my research, I'm starting to believe that you could just make yourself more intelligent with work. So today I want to go the extra step of really thinking about what are the implications of this research on just our everyday lives, not in terms of robotics or anything else. So maybe take my opinion with a grain of salt, because in it is my worldview, which is that it's hierarchical and self-similar. That's how the world is structured. That's just a fancy way of saying that life is complex, but it's complex in pretty similar ways. So intellectually, we deal with that complexity by dividing up reality and grouping those divisions into abstract ideas. For example, we often talk about this work-life balance that we all deal with. But when you really think about it, your work and your life are so tangled together, it's really hard to divide up your life in such a way. We can never get fully away from these abstractions, because without them we wouldn't be able to think at all. So being intelligent, at least partially, is going to boil down to compressing our reality into these very useful abstractions. Hopefully I haven't lost everybody. Everybody's good, all right. So from this perspective, if you want to really get smarter, you have to do diverse activities, and that amounts to a statistically robust sample of reality. So such a good sample is probably constructed from the things that scare you a little bit, or from the things that you would ask, why on earth would anyone do that? Because honestly, if you can't understand it, then you found an area where you can learn a lot. And for me, this means that I'm probably going to participate in a hippie drum circle pretty soon. And I'll probably try dancing, whereby I'm going to renew my close relationship with the floor. So I want to take a moment and I want to ask you to think about what are the things that you're afraid to do, and I want you to seriously consider doing them. And if you decide to do them, I ask two things. Tell me how it goes, and don't feel guilty about trying it. If there's one thing I want to leave you with tonight, it's this. Doing something hard is never a waste of time. It will probably make you better at a lot of other things. Thank you.
So thank you, Sarah. And I don't know about the fiance, but I don't think she bombed. So, yeah. Okay. So, moving on, as many of you know, I am deeply committed to supporting the career advancement of women in the intelligence community and the private sector, which is why I took such delight last year in introducing the first woman to receive the Edwin Land Industry Award. Tonight, I am just as thrilled to introduce the second, Mandy Rogers from Northrop Grumman. Mandy has applied advanced mission engineering and software development concepts to enable greater data integration and analytic efficiency across the intelligence community. She implemented user experience and agile development techniques to engage IC analysts and pioneer technical transformations that dramatically reduce the time needed to accomplish certain analytic tasks. Mandy also helped spearhead the formation of a mission-driven technology development process known as IMPACT. Mandy has been highly regarded for her teaching and mentoring abilities and serves as a mentor to students at the University of Maryland College Park and Christopher Newport University. And I just have to say that I had the opportunity to meet Mandy last year at GeoInt. Her support was actually at NGA. I did not know that at the time, and had the opportunity to meet her along with about 8 other women who code. And I'm just so delighted, Mandy, to be able to present to you the 2017 Edwin Land Industry Award. Mandy Rogers.
So as Tish had mentioned, I had the pleasure of meeting her at the GeoInt conference this past year. Amazing women in the IC event. I was actually wearing Chuck Taylors and jeans, so it was quite a fun event. I am truly honored and humbled to be receiving this award coined after such a passionate and innovative man, Edwin H. Land, whom is quoted to have said, an essential aspect of creativity is not being afraid to fail. Congratulations to all of the other INSA awardees here tonight. Because of you, our nation is just a little safer every single day. Thank you, INSA, for hosting such a wonderful event and getting together an outstanding group of individuals. I also want to thank my incredible network of mentors, starting with Northrop Grumman leadership and colleagues who encourage innovation and pushing the boundaries of what is possible. The diverse team of government and industry partners who has fostered a collaborative environment that allows us to do some pretty cool stuff. And especially my family for being so kind, patient, and supportive of me, some of who are in the audience tonight. Now, I wanted to tell a little bit story about mentorship. I grew up in a farm town in Virginia, and I had enrolled my junior year of high school into a fashion marketing class because we got to take a trip to Tyson's 2 and see all the high-end designer stores. And so that was the cool class to take. I enrolled, the class was full, and I ended up being put into this new thing called computer math that my high school was offering. So I go to my guidance counselor and say, you've got to switch me out of this class. I have no idea what this is. It sounds kind of boring. And I'd prefer something more fun. You know, this is my elective. I'd like to explore something a little bit different. So she says, you're good with computers. You're good with math. Sorry, the class is full. Stick with it and get an easy A. Boy, were they wrong about that easy A. This course ended up being an introduction to programming and the history of computers. And you know, it really piqued my interest. And from that course, I found out that I was pretty good at problem solving and thinking tough things through. I thought it was really neat to be able to create new things and new capabilities. So my teacher pulled me aside and said, look, you have got to consider going into the STEM industry. I think this is your calling. I think you're really great at it, and we definitely need more females in this industry. And then my grandfather also said, you know what? I think you're going to be an engineer. I think this is your calling. You need to pursue a STEM degree. So because of their encouragement, I received a degree in computer engineering from Christopher Newport University, and I was the sole female to graduate that year. Obviously, things have changed a little bit, and more females are pursuing STEM degrees more than ever before. But had it not been for these mentors, I never would have been able to step up to the challenge of receiving that degree or ever consider myself an engineer. I had no idea what engineering really was at that time. I couldn't wrap my brain around it because I hadn't been exposed to what that was previously. So it's really, really quite important that we expose people at a young age to the field of STEM. We need scientists and technologists and mathematicians and engineers to help us solve our hardest problems. We need non-traditional people who can really bring out-of-the-box issues to help us protect our warfighters and do things innovatively. I spend much of my time trying to give back on that mentorship that I've received along my entire career. I've spent many hours mentoring and trying to inspire confidence in hesitant scientists and engineers. And so for the audience, I hope to see some of you up here next year, and I hope that you get the opportunity to participate in the bilateral exchange that is being a mentor. Oftentimes, the mentee brings out a different perspective or a different lens that you would never have been able to see prior. And this gives you the opportunity to do really cool things. Above all, I'm really proud to support my customer's mission. I really enjoy being able to empathize with mission and the end users of our technology. To help warfighters and analysts work smarter, not harder. I really look forward to continuing to do wonderful things to enable mission, and I thank you all kindly.
Thank you very much, Mandy. Well said. I am now pleased to welcome former NSA Director, former Deputy Director of Central Intelligence, and retired Navy Admiral Bill Stewart to present the Military Award.
Thank you very much. Intuition and analysis would say there must be some way to lock this thing down, or not push it around. Let me make a couple of comments before I introduce my very distinguished awardee. I'd just like to add to what General Stewart has said about it's beyond the point that we are saying that we live in interesting and challenging times. And a lot of our customers in the Intel business are struggling today with this 4+1 threat spectrum that General Stewart talked about. And we're sort of coming from behind as these adversaries have effectively adopted our second offset capabilities, if you will, the great revolution in military affairs that we developed in the 1980s and beyond, and now in the hands of other people. And when you combine it together with the other things that they're doing, these are very significant challenges, and these are big threats. And so the heavy obligation that we have in the Intel business is to not only be able to do the best analysis and have a high-performing intelligence community, but we have to start really penetrating these targets deeply and doing the kinds of things that we were basically hired to do. So that's point number one. Point number two, as I sort of came down the grand stairway down to where the food was being served coming in tonight, I noticed my awardee, Captain Bridget Calhoun, And her entire family and her Army colleagues were all being photographed, and it was a big crowd. And so I would just like to congratulate the Army and her family for being here tonight. One of the things I always enjoy about giving this award is to see how the military colleagues surround the people and essentially support them for this class of award. It's very heartening to me. When the award announcement, when the time rolls around every year for INSA to announce and make the call for these awards, I send emails out to everybody saying, please submit names. Be thoughtful about the contributions that you make and try to get a good long list because our community is so filled with talented people. So now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Captain Bridget Calhoun of the U.S. Army. Serving as Assistant Brigade S2 of the 173rd Airborne Brigade and the 1st of the 503rd Battalion S2 in Vicenza, Italy. It says Vienna, Italy here, but I presume it's Vicenza. Captain Calhoun has brought teams and individuals together to accomplish missions objectives. Her leadership, energy, and professional commitment has benefited her brigade, the U.S. Army, and the NATO alliance. Specifically, she helped strengthen partnerships with the French and Slovakian airborne communities and even mentored their intelligence officers to ensure successful integration with other NATO members. Her leadership and presence in joint planning efforts and in multinational exercises has been a catalyst for organizational readiness. Captain Calhoun's own technical and tactical proficiency has commanded the respect of superiors, peers, and subordinates at all echelons and across all disciplines, while her extensive knowledge of intelligence and tactical operations has been sought by senior brigade leaderships and joint commanders. By the way, her up-the-line seniors tonight said, this is an awesome lady. Thanks to her, the 173rd Intelligence Warfighting functions is second to none at the brigade level. So it's my great pleasure, and I'm very proud to personally present the 2017 William O. Studeman Military Award to Captain Bridget Calhoun, United States Army.
Sir, thank you so much for those kind remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, it's truly a humbling experience to be here this evening. Just the handful of individuals I was able to meet before this ceremony and the long list of other distinguished attendees, especially my fellow awardees. This is absolutely one of the highlights of my Army career that I've had thus far. I would also like to thank the fan club that Admiral Studeman spoke of. I'm Irish, so we tend to travel in large packs. First, I have to thank my parents, John and Mary Ann. They have been the most incredible support network, not only moving me across the country, but also across the world over to Italy. And they were just over there a couple weeks ago visiting, and now I've made them come to Washington, D.C. for this. So thank you for your love and unconditional support. I couldn't do it without you. Secondly, I'd like to thank my Uncle Pat and Aunt Sandy Kimball. They are actually my inspiration for joining the intelligence community. They both have served the CIA, DIA, consulting, several other roles over the last several decades, and it was because of them and the after effects of 9/11 that I decided to become an intelligence professional and attend West Point. And without their mentorship and example, I wouldn't be here today either, so thank you both. I would also like to thank Major Nick Goshen, my Brigade S2 and mentor, and I'm so happy that there's been a large emphasis here on mentorship tonight, because without him, I absolutely wouldn't be standing here. I would not have been selected to go over to the 173rd, and everything that was spoken about earlier is really a testament to his vision and his leadership, and we're gonna be sad to see you leave this summer, sir, but the rest of the Army is gonna be happy to have you back there with their leadership. Then lastly, I have my two best friends here, Captain Marin Lowry and Tierney Brennan. One is my best friend from civilian life, the other is my best friend from Army life, and you definitely need to have those friendships to sustain you through everything that we do as intelligence professionals. So thank you both for being here and keeping me on time with this speech too. So what I'd like to talk about tonight is the importance of what the intelligence community does, not only at a strategic level, with providing the early warning and indications for aggression within Europe, not just from Russia, but ISIS, but what that means to the NATO alliance and then the tactical warfighter on the ground. One of the big impetuses for me joining the intelligence community was the moral obligation that we have to the soldier who's at the end of the rifle there on the battlefield. And that's something I take very strongly, and it's really been the greatest pleasure serving as an infantry battalionist to having those relationships with the warfighter on the ground. And doing it in the context of the European theater is just even more special because it's not only our own country's soldiers that we're doing that analysis and support for, but it's also the ones for the NATO alliance. And I would say the highlight of my time in Europe has been our involvement with Poland. So my parents and I actually went to Krakow in February 2015. I had read how it was the cultural and spiritual hub of Poland and wanted to go visit it. And we were escorted around the city by a wonderful gentleman named Andrew Durman. He's about 70 years old. He's a veteran of the Polish 6th Airborne Brigade. His uncle was actually assassinated at Auschwitz prison, and Andrew, after he finished his military service, moved to Chicago for a few years, actually lived down the street from my dad's steel company. And he showed us around the city, took us to the monument to Thaddeus Kosciuszko, who was an engineer that helped build and fortify West Point. Andrew was also confirmed by then Cardinal Karol Wojtyła, who became Pope John Paul II. And just having someone like this able to show us around the city was absolutely incredible. Fast forward to May 2015, and I was jumping out of a C-130 aircraft onto the airfield in Swidwin, Poland as part of Operation Anaconda, which was the largest NATO exercise in history involving about 30,000 soldiers from across the alliance. And the Russians actually compared it to their own Operation Barbarossa that was the cover for the invasion of the Soviet Union. So that absolutely had an impact. And when we finished the exercise, we had a few days to integrate with the Polish people, go out to the town, and they were cooking us food, holding parades, and that was just the most incredible experience, being able to look those Polish civilians in the eye, work with their military, and know that although it's been said that Poland lost World War II twice, first to the Nazis and then to the Russians, I don't think they're going to face that same fate today, and I think the rest of the NATO alliance feels the same way with what we're providing. So again, what we're doing here absolutely matters. Even at the largest strategic level, there is still a soldier at the end of the rifle down there that we have that moral obligation to. And it's incredible to be here tonight in all of your company. It's a very unified effort, I can tell, with the emphasis we have on mentorship and stewarding our profession. So thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to several more of you after this and exchanging more stories. So thank you.
So thanks, Captain Calhoun. To present the Dick Kerr Award, the former Deputy Director of Central Intelligence, Dick Kerr. Welcome, Dick.
Very dangerous to let me have a microphone with all these people in an audience. I do have to say a few words. I live in Vero Beach, and I've been in my safe spot down there, watching Washington and watching this whole process over the past year, particularly the transition. It's fascinating. As 33 years in CIA, I went through 7 transitions. And let me tell you, only about five of those was I really involved in any direct way, and 3 very directly. They were all difficult. Transition is difficult. That's the nature of transition. And I think people need to relax a little bit about this. It is not such a traumatic thing. You have new bosses come in, and it's very interesting, and I'll just take a moment. I told Chuck I won't say much, but I can't help saying a little bit. My impression is that administrations come in two different ways. They come in thinking all of the intelligence organizations, and particularly CIA, are fools or knaves, or they come in thinking that they know everything and all they need to do is find out the secrets that have been kept from them all that time. And the answer is, of course, they come in and they find neither of those things are true. And they end up somewhere in the middle ground saying intelligence is vital to the policymaking process. It's fundamental to it, but there's not necessarily any magic about it. One last comment that I think people need, and I very much appreciated General Stewart's comments about loyalty about the Constitution. One thing I found at CIA, and my experience is primarily there, although I have a lot of experience with the intelligence community generally, is that we know our targets better than we know our president or the people around the president. We study them far more carefully than we look at the people we serve directly. We don't think about them very carefully. We don't understand how they collect information, how they get it, who they rely on. We're not very good at G2ing, if you will, our own customers. And we need to pay a lot more attention to our customers, how they think, how they do things, how they assimilate information, and what they think is truly important, rather than just assuming that what we give them is what they need and that we know better. So we have to be very careful about that arrogance that comes, and I will admit a good deal of that in my lifetime over the years. And now to the substance of the evening. I just can't help doing this. First of all, Tom Smith. I asked Tom, I said, "Are you sure that's not a pseudonym?" For a counterintelligence officer, Tom Smith just seems, it doesn't seem right. I would expect a little bit, but I asked his wife, and it is Tom Smith, actually. Tom brought with him today, or they came with him, 4 members of Treasury to back him up. His bosses. First of all, I'm impressed by that, by the number of people that came and the enthusiasm. Counterintelligence is an area that was kind of a backwater for a number of years in my own organization and in the intelligence community. That's not true today, and it's not true for some obvious reasons. We've had some terrible experiences with insiders in the last several years that have destroyed, in many ways, much of our capability and cost us dearly. And so counterintelligence has assumed a new role and a rather dramatic role. The insider threat is a real threat, and it's a difficult problem. And looking at Tom's record, what he's done is create a system within Treasury that both responds to the threat itself and the security problems, but also protects the rights of the individual involved. That's an interesting balancing act as to how to do that and how to protect people, and also how to make sure that you're protecting information. And Tom has done a great job of that. His record speaks very well. Treasury, I always think follow the money. Follow the money today is probably more important, maybe more important than many of the things we do in the intelligence business. And protecting that information is absolutely key. So Tom, congratulations for having done a great job, set up a system within Treasury that works well and works within the community and has done an outstanding job in the counterintelligence business.
I am deeply honored to receive the Richard J. Kerr Government Award. I'm extremely thankful to my wife, Katie, for her constant support, my team for their fidelity to our mission, and my leadership for recognizing the critical importance of Treasury's Insider Threat Program. I'm particularly grateful to Leslie Ireland, who recently retired. She was our Assistant Secretary for Intelligence Analysis, and without Leslie, we wouldn't have an Insider Threat Program at Treasury. I'm confident of that. I'm truly fortunate to work alongside such a great team of dedicated professionals who believe in our mission and who come to work every day ready to fight the good fight. I'm also very grateful to my leadership at Treasury. Without their support and advocacy, I know that my team and I would have been unable to achieve so much. I'd also like to thank INSA for honoring me with this award. This recognition is great for all community members working hard to detect, deter, and mitigate insider threats, and shows that this work is valued in both the public and the private sectors. INSA's mission is to bring these two sectors together to collaborate, to develop creative, innovative, and timely solutions to the intelligence and national security issues facing the United States, to include the insider threat. As we've seen with multiple high-profile incidents over the past several years, this problem is very real, and it demands collaboration. And the only way we can contribute and can continue to make progress is by acting as a single community, unified by the shared challenge posed by the insider threat. Security takes a village, and keeping our nation's secrets safe and secure requires the participation of each villager. Before I leave this podium, I'd like to read a short parable that I think is relevant here. It's called The Village Wine. A triumphal feast was scheduled in a village, and in order to ensure that all might enjoy in the feast without imposing upon any few, the villagers all agreed that each would put one bottle of his best wine into a great cask for the occasion. However, upon reflection, one villager reasoned that if he filled his bottle with water, the dilution would be so slight no one would notice. So the day of the feast arrived, and the great cask was tapped, and wonder of wonders, nothing but water poured forth. Every villager had reason to like. My bit will not be missed. I challenge each of you to return to your organization and ensure that it is filling the cask with wine, not water. Every one of us must do our part if we hope to succeed as a village. INSA, thank you again for honoring me with this award. And most importantly, thank you for recognizing that we are a single community and that we must always work together to achieve our common goals. Thanks.
So the one thing I do want to say is Tom said they wouldn't have a program without Leslie Ireland, but I had a good conversation with Leslie a week or so ago, and she very emphatically said Treasury would not have a program without Tom Smith. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to do the Warner Award. You know, thanks, Dick, for your wisdom, as usual. But several years ago, before I joined INSA, after I'd retired from the Army and was wondering what I was going to do, I was fortunate to get a job working on the Senate Armed Services Committee and being the Intelligence and National Security Advisor for John Warner. We've talked a lot about the importance of mentorship tonight, and Captain Calhoun really brought it home there. But I can tell you, Senator Warner was a pretty tremendous mentor to me in my life and career, as well to many others. I've had conversations with several folks here in the room tonight about John Warner, and there weren't many like him. But I can also tell you that John Warner was closely involved in crafting the legislation that created the Department of Homeland Security, and he continues to closely follow the evolution of this critical department. I will also share with you that Senator Warner celebrated his 90th birthday 5 days ago. But he's unable to join us this evening, and I'm honored to present the Homeland Security Award on his behalf. I was able to visit with him here quite recently, and he did want me to convey a message, okay? So, to Sean, from Senator Warner, I want to extend my congratulations to you on receiving the 2016 John W. Warner Homeland Security Award from the Intelligence and National Security Alliance. I recently spoke with INSA President Chuck Alsup, and he informed me of your impressive work on behalf of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Having read the award recommendation, which we're going to talk about in a minute because you'll see it's pretty lean because Sean's doing some pretty sensitive stuff, okay? Our nation is facing unprecedented challenges from dangerous ideologies such as ISIS, both physically and virtually. This is a significant concern that will persist for the foreseeable future. I applaud what you and your colleagues are doing to protect our nation as you leverage the unique authorities of your agency to make significant progress in combating the flow of foreign fighters internationally. The INSA Achievement Awards celebration is always a very special night. I regret I'm unable to be with you tonight in person, but I hope you and your guests enjoy the ceremony. You and the 5 other award recipients give me hope that the intelligence and national security communities are in good hands. Thank you all for your hard work and commitment to public service. I wish you well and continued success in your endeavors. Signed, John Warner, former United States Senator. So tonight's recipient is Sean Sullivan. As I said, if you look at the program, it's pretty light. He's doing some pretty sensitive things, but it does involve doing some very important things to slow down the flow of foreign fighters around the world. I'm going to let Sean speak a little bit more about that as much as he can himself, but I just want you to know he's doing some pretty serious work. You wouldn't expect, we do take classified nominations for these awards. There usually aren't many, 4 or 5. And you wouldn't expect a nomination from ICE to be a classified nomination. But I think it's a reminder to all of us that we have an awful lot of agencies in and out of the IC that are doing some extraordinarily important work. So with that, and on behalf of John Warner, Sean.
Thank you, sir. So I'll try not to touch this podium and knock it off the stage because that's something I would do. I'm very honored to stand in front of you all tonight and thank you for attending. First of all, I'd like to address something that the introductory speaker for General Stewart, I think he made a mistake. So it actually is a very common thing for Marine leaders to be out there amongst their men and women and those Marines getting dirty, digging their nails in, and actually getting in it with the troops that are out there fighting the war. And I think that single action just demonstrates why General Stewart is such a successful leader and has gotten to the point where he is with the DIA, is that he's willing to get down in the dirt with his Marines or with his people and understand what their work is and why it's of value to the agency. So I just wanted to point that out because it's very important to me, and it's leaders like General Stewart which inspire me every day to do what I do. So that's first thing. Second, I come from an organization, and the people I work with, we use this saying, quiet professionalism. So you don't hear a lot about what we do in the news, we tend to have these small little blurbs that describe what we do. But unfortunately, our nation is confronting this challenge of foreign fighters, ISIS, Daesh. And in my opinion, it's one of the most significant challenges that we have faced in probably the past 60, 70 years. World War II maybe is the last time where we have faced such an ideological challenge that confronts the Constitution. And again, I just want to bring up another thing that General Stewart brought up. It's something that is directly confronting every single person in this room and our partners around the world. And it's so challenging to us that we have people from the United States that find their values no longer remain with the Constitution, and they choose to travel and join a caliphate and this organization and actively engage in terrorist operations that endanger every person sitting in this room. So the work that we do to confront and to stop this activity is incredibly important. And every person sitting in this front row, the 6 of us, it's a small representation of the quality of work that goes into confronting this threat every single day. And just to highlight, we've got people like Bridget standing up, and she didn't describe any of the awards, but I'm sitting there in my seat. You've got a West Point graduate, air assault badge, jump wings. I see a Bronze Star sitting on her chest. We don't see this level of professional standing in front of these organizations every day. We've rapidly advanced the quality of leader and placed them in unique positions, given them the skills and the qualities that have enabled the success of our nation. So I'm just inspired to sit here amongst my peers and just to see how great that everybody's doing. So I'm confident that no matter what our problem set is, that we are going to be able to do great things in the future. So with that, I thank you all and have a great night.
Okay, thanks, Sean. And for our last presentation, last but not least, General Stewart.
Okay, now for the second half of my remarks. You've heard enough from me, but I got to tell you this. This is serious. If Jana hadn't won this award, I would have boycotted this event tonight. There's nobody else who embodies Joan Dempsey's leadership, Joan Dempsey's mentorship than Jana. And so I could talk to you about the products she's done and the money she's saved. But what I simply want, because I want to get her up here. You want to hear from Jana, not from me anymore. Leader, scholar, teacher, mentor, great family. She embodies everything that we're trying to build at DIA and our future leaders. And so it is my distinct honor to introduce Jana Scott Tarman. I wanted to look at before I got it reversed. The recipient of the Joan Dempsey Mentorship Award.
INSA, thank you. You honor me. General Stewart, thank you. You mentor me every day. To Joan Dempsey and my fellow award recipients, thank you. You inspire me. To Carl and Tabby, you make me. I love you. So this is not part of my life plan. Not at all. So like Mindy said, I grew up in rural America. In my case, in Michigan, in this town that had one stoplight, and every night at 5 p.m. it started blinking because there was no need for it after rush hour. There was no counterintelligence elective in my high school. I don't know that we knew how to spell it. Certainly thought it was 2 words if we did. So I decided my life plan, I was going to be an attorney. I decided this in 7th grade, and like every good analyst, I'm stubborn as hell, and that was the plan. So I went to George Washington Law School, and I was broke. But luckily, fortunately for me, George Washington was able to offer me a full scholarship so that I was able to attend. And since I was there, and I was used to being broke, and they were going to pay for it, gosh, I was going to take advantage. So I went to law school during the day, and at night, I went to the George Washington Hospital, and I got a certificate to be an emergency medical technician. So law school during the day, got my EMT degree at night. At the same time, when I was in law school, I took advantage of every summer and every opportunity that I could afford myself through George Washington. I went to study at Oxford between my 1st and 2nd year of law school. And then between my 2nd and 3rd year of law school, I went to the Pentagon to work as a planner. Again, more credentials, everything that I can suck up while I'm on somebody else's dime. And that was the plan, right? I was moving forward. I was going to be an attorney. And then one morning, I was riding the subway, And I got off at the Foggy Bottom station on my way to law school. And over the intercom, the manager of the station said, "The Pentagon Metro station is closed because a plane has flown into the building." And I stopped in my place. I mean, quite literally, like what you see in the movies, I just halted there. And I had an option. I can go left, and I can go to law school, right? Because I'm in my third year of law school, about to graduate. Or I can go right, and I can head to the George Washington Hospital because I now have an EMT certificate. And I went right. I don't even remember making the conscious decision. I just went right. And when I got to the hospital, I mean, they are in crisis mode. They are literally throwing blankets on tables in the cafeteria to bring in more victims, more patients from the Pentagon. There's no time to change. I'm wearing what I intended to wear to school that day. There's no time to even put scrubs on. And one of the doctors that worked in the emergency room, he said, "Jana, come here," because he knew me from my class. And he took out a roll of masking tape. So not even duct tape, it's the lesser of the tapes. And he takes a strip of masking tape and he puts it across my chest and he writes EMT. And then he has me turn around and he puts 2 strips in a cross-like manner across my back and he writes EMT down each cross. And that's it. I'm in an ambulance on the way to have the worst day of my life. And I had just finished that internship at the Pentagon. So 2 weeks between my internship in the Pentagon and returning as an EMT. And my colleagues are now bodies. I knew then that I had to help. And not just for one day, but for every day. And so I did. I joined DIA the next year. And in fact, I was working for DIA in the Pentagon the day I got the email that said I had passed the bar. And it's so ironic, right? Because that was the moment. That was supposed to be the defining moment in my life, right? That was supposed to be what I wanted to do. That was supposed to be the title that I wanted to wear. And it passed without notice. Because that title, and every title that I've held since, every title that's been pinned to me since, means less to me than a strip of masking tape. I am so honored to be here. It wasn't part of my life plan, but I am so honored to work with all of you, to every one of you. I'm so glad that you have shown the same commitment to national security that I hope that I always will. I am so glad that my goal remains today and will forever remain to never again see a colleague as a body. Thank you all.
So I think you know now why I said this is one of the most fun things we do, and certainly the most inspiring thing that we do. So thank you. That concludes our award ceremony. We're going to have a follow-on reception, dessert and champagne in the atrium. I'm going to invite the awardees back up on the stage with General Stewart so we can take a couple more photos, but the rest of you, please move on to the atrium. Thank you.